Chapter 17. The Gatekeepers.
The first gatekeeper you'll encounter, the receptionist gatekeeper, is not VITO's personal assistant, but someone who fields calls for a living, typically at the front desk. Receptionist gatekeepers handle a lot of phone traffic. Given the advent of press star 1 to hear a directory, technology on most of our business phone systems, and the rise of email and texting and other social media business communications and the like, it seems that with every passing year there are fewer and fewer receptionists sitting in lobbies, answering phones and opening up snail mail. Even so, all it takes is one receptionist to stop you dead in your tracks. Before you pick up the phone to call VITO, you must master a few simple facts about receptionist gatekeepers.
They are not the highest paid employees at VITO Incorporated. Their job is to be polite and route calls as quickly and accurately as possible to the appropriate individuals at VITO Incorporated. They are trained to protect the time of key individuals. That means they are trained to pick up on any uncertainty in your voice or what you're saying. They can smell an unsolicited sales call a mile away.
How do you deal with these folks? Let's make a VITO call and hear what an ideal interaction with a receptionist gatekeeper sounds like.
It's V-Day.
You did all the research. You selected 20 VITOs who match the persona of your best customers. And if you don't have any customers yet, then match the persona of your ideal prospects. You've got the names and pronunciations of both VITO and VITO's private assistant, Tommie. You sent your VITO letter a few days ago, and you faxed it exactly 1 hour before your scheduled time to call. Now, it's V-Day, VITO Day. 2 minutes before the time you promised VITO and Tommie in your action PS that you would call, you start punching VITO Incorporated's number. The reason you're calling 2 minutes early is simple. Being on time for VITO calls, as opposed to any other kind of call, means you should be a little bit early. The phone rings, and here's what happens next. Receptionist gatekeeper of VITO Inc.
VITO Incorporated. How may I direct your call?
Your response? Please connect me with Tommie in Ms. Importante's office. This is Will Prosper. Thank you.
VITO Rule Number 23. When interacting with the receptionist gatekeeper, you must close with the words, "Thank you," spoken briskly and confidently.
Notice that in this critical first exchange with the receptionist gatekeeper, you're giving 3 critical bits of information in a specific and quite intentional order. First, you're sharing Tommie's name, and here's the reason. The receptionist gatekeeper knows that Tommie, VITO's private assistant, plays a bigger game on a bigger field at VITO Incorporated, and is really the first line of defense when it comes to VITO and protecting VITO's precious time. Second, you're sharing VITO's name. Here's the reason. Saying VITO's name confidently makes it clear that you know what's going on. You're signaling to the receptionist gatekeeper that you're well informed, that you know who's who, and that's important. Third, you're sharing your own name, and here's the reason. Receptionist gatekeepers are going to ask for it anyway. You must give these 3 pieces of information in this exact order. The bottom line is this. If you follow this sequence, you're actually doing the receptionist gatekeeper's job for him or her. Now, let's assume that the gatekeeper receptionist says this.
What's the call about?
You've got 2 choices when it comes to formulating a response here.
Response 1.
Ms. Importante is expecting my call at 9:30. Would you please put me through? Thank you. You must close with the words "thank you" spoken briskly and confidently.
Response 2.
My call to Ms. Importante is about increasing shareholder value, reducing cycle time, and eliminating $87.9 million in direct costs. Now, it appears as that I'm running a little bit late for my call. Would you please connect me? Thank you. Once again, you must close with the words thank you spoken briskly and confidently, assuming that you are thinking, breathing, and speaking while channeling your own inner VITO. You will find that this approach will virtually always get your call put through without further interrogation. If you sound like VITO, you will be connected directly to VITO's office. By the way, if what I'm advocating here seems forceful, controlling, or manipulative, I suggest that you take a moment to stop and think about what your organization's VITO would sound like if he or she was interacting with a receptionist gatekeeper and wanting to be connected to the CEO, president, or owner of any company.
What's next?
You're about to enter VITO's private suite. Next, we'll talk about what you're going to say to Tommie, VITO's private assistant. Tommie is never ever to be mistaken for, treated like, or otherwise mixed up with a receptionist gatekeeper. These are two totally different players at VITO Incorporated, and the sooner you recognize that, the better off you'll be, and the bigger your commission checks will be.
VITO's private assistant, Tommie.
Good news. The closer you get to VITO, the easier the process gets. Once the receptionist gatekeeper puts your call through to Tommie's line, one of three great outcomes will happen. First, Tommie will answer the phone. Second, voicemail will answer the phone. Or third, VITO will answer the phone. I'll cover the first of these options in this chapter, and then in the next chapter we'll cover what to do if you hit voicemail. And the chapter after that, I'll give you more ammunition for the moment you finally hit pay dirt and make voice-to-voice contact with VITO.
Tommie picks up the phone.
The phone rings once, the phone rings twice, and then...
Good morning, Miss Importante's office. This is Tommie. How may I help you?
Remember, Tommie holds the key to winning VITO's precious time and attention, either directly, as in you get to talk to VITO, or indirectly, as in Tommie talks favorably to VITO about you. In recognition of that critical fact, I want you to take the following critically important step the moment you hear Tommie's voice.
VITO rule number 24. When talking with Tommie, forget that VITO exists.
That's right. For all intents and purposes, VITO just left the planet. That's why I want you to say your opening statement to Tommie with one small exception and one small addition. The exception's pretty obvious. You'll be using Tommie's name instead of VITO's name. The addition is that with Tommie, you will be using your name and your company name, because Tommie will need to know this to make a mental connection with you and your letter. What you say might sound something like this. Tommie, thanks for taking my call. This is Will Prosper with Zipline. The CEO of the world's largest electronic manufacturer increased shareholder value and reduced cycle time by 63 days while eliminating as much as $87.9 million in direct cost in just 144 days. Does this touch on issues that are of concern with you during this quarter? Notice you are not mentioning VITO. Notice that you are treating Tommie as though Tommie were VITO.
Here's what will happen next.
Tommie will make a mental connection about you, your letter, its headline, and your opening statement's hook. And shortly after doing that, will probably answer your question with something that sounds like this.
Shareholder value. Reducing time to market and cutting expenses is always important to Miss Importante.
Look what just happened. You asked if something was important to Tommie, and Tommie replied with, what's important to VITO? I have heard this happen hundreds of times. But guess what? If you make the common mistake that most salespeople make of asking Tommie what VITO thinks, even though you're supposed to be operating under the assumption that VITO has left the planet, this is what your conversational sequence will look like when you say, does this touch on issues that are of concern to Ms. Importante during this month? Tommie's response would be,
Send me some information on what this is all about, and if Miss Importante is interested, she'll give you a call.
You can pull out your bugle and play taps for yourself because you just threw yourself under the bus. You ignored Tommie's valuable insights and neglected to salute Tommie's uniform.
General rules of engagement with Tommie.
Do not ask to speak to VITO. This will have the effect of dismissing Tommie. Do not ask whether VITO is in. Tommie will automatically say no, even if VITO's standing right next to Tommie. Do not ask whether VITO got your letter. This request has the look and feel of Tommie working for you, and that's not good either. Do not lie to Tommie about anything. Do not say you know someone when you don't. Do not sidestep any question that Tommie asks of you. Do not dig for information without giving information. Do not overstate or inflate anything, like who your customers are or how many you have or the results you've been delivering. Do not pass along any outdating, misleading, or inaccurate information. Do pronounce VITO and Tommie's name correctly. If you have to make a couple of calls beforehand to ask someone else at VITO Incorporated about the correct pronunciation, do so. Do follow Tommie's advice and guidance. Listen carefully and take notes. Do answer every question Tommie asks. Give information before you ask for it, and do ask very specific questions. Follow up with a handwritten thank you note immediately after your first conversation with Tommie. And immediately is like the same day. You can also send an email as long as you also send a nice handwritten note via snail mail. During the call, Tommie, like VITO, may point you towards someone else specifically at VITO Incorporated. As I hope you remember, this is called a shunt. There are good shunts and bad shunts. I'll show you how to tell the difference and turn bad ones into good ones later on in the book. If you want to get on the fast track and get all those C-suite appointments you've worked hard for and deserve so you could sell more faster and crush your quota in the process, then all you need to do is go to our site, VITOSalesTraining.com. Click on the Take Action tab, scroll down till you see the VITO University logo, and check it out. And in the meantime, have yourself a masterful rest of the day. Bye-bye.